Guys, Togo here with a new video, and this video will be a SOD video where I review Phase 6. I have actually a bit of a story before we start. So I started at Phase 1, played a lot in Phase 1, really enjoyed. It was like a low power scale, you still had like crazy things, but it was low. And I have notes so I can have a track, so I don't really talk about things I don't want to talk or like get sidetracked too much. But like pretty much the reason why I stopped playing SOD was that other stuff came out. First and foremost, Phase 2 was with Gnomergan, which I was not really that hyped about. Although having done that while leveling, it didn't seem like a bad like raid. I just think that my expectations were a bit different. Also, I didn't like the acquisition of runes, and I actually always despised that. Still now, I really despise it. And I think they didn't hit the mark because seasonal discovery wasn't really about discovery. It was more about searching on Wowhead, and impossible that people majoritarily found the runes by themselves. I don't think so. It's either by add-on or by Wowhead. And I didn't like it. I knew that it was bound to happen, and it is what it is. But there are a few things that I really like. And then I came back at Phase 3, and there were incursions, which I think kind of made people leave. Although I don't think it's like only incursions. I think that's an excuse to drop it way easier. But I think Sunken Temple is just not really the raid that you would have wanted. I think they should have done SM Kath a raid, or just like the whole SM in raids. I think people were living in SM from Phase 2 to the Phase 3 and then Zul'Farrak. For leveling and for runes and for books, I think like they just didn't hit the mark there. That was my opinion at that point. And then from what I've heard from Phase 4, it went better and better. But the issue was they didn't put phases fast enough. Okay? But now we are Phase 6, we have AQ, and you have multiple ways to do like raids and do catch up. So I decided to play again Phase 6. I thought it was going to be daunting. It was kind of daunting. I think the leveling is kind of like since everyone has been level the 60s, you couldn't really find anyone to play with. So what did I do? Well, I convinced friends to play with me, or they convinced at the end to play with them because they were still playing, and while I was on Classic and Cataclysm and Retail playing other things. Then I came back to SOD, they leveled with me, and we did a lot of dungeons just in general. And now we are at that point where I'm level 60. I did every single raid, I did every single dungeon, coin run, whatever you want to call it. And I did even PvP. I did the STV event. I did the BRM, the eruption event from Burning Steps. No, not Burning Steps. Searing Gorge. And I'm geared up, right? So I did also ZG. I did like Onyxia. I did all the world bosses. Literally, I have everything. I have like even Bloodfang pants. I have the weapons from ZG. I still have like a shitty ring. Like I still have no trinket. My eye level is like my gear score is very low still. And I bought with the coins the tier 0. And now this is the start of the video where I kind of say the good things and the bad things from SOD. Now, to keep it short, do I enjoy SOD? Well, I actually enjoy SOD. So it's crazy that I was in a place where I thought I was not going to enjoy SOD. So I have my notes next to me. That really I thought like I was done with SOD. I thought like okay, it's a hipster thing. It will be gone anyways. Who cares? And now that I'm level 60 on fresh and still leveling my warrior, I'm a paladin. I had a bit of time to do SOD, and SOD is so fast and so arcadey, I would say, that you have some time to play on SOD, and you will not like slumber into like a state where you don't have any gear progression. And now I'm going to say why it's good. Well, A pro is that you can do coin runs. And coin runs, what is a coin run? So for example, we have Tarnished Undermine Reel. And with Tarnished Undermine Reel, you can buy a lot of gear that you would have in dungeons, or like extra gear to complement your gear to be somewhat competitive. For example, if you're doing, let's say, Strat Live, and you are a Cannon Master Willy, and for some reason it never drops Shadowcraft spoilers, well, if you're doing like 2 dungeons or 3 dungeons, depending on the dungeon that you're doing, you will get Shadowcraft spoilers, because you will be able to buy it for 25 coins. So it means that every progress you're going to do, it has some sort of a bad luck mechanism, right? You could do a lot of dungeons and still not see any like items there. It's not like you have all the items. You don't have Hajj there. You don't have Ironfoil there, right? You cannot buy every single piece with coins, but you can buy the T0, the tier 0 for coins. And it does take a bit of time. It does take a few resets. If you're doing raids, it does become a bit faster, because every single boss gives you 3 coins, for example, in MC, BWL, or AQ. So you're going to get those coins rather fast if you're doing raids as well. And they always try to find new bodies, because again, the community is at a point where everyone is geared, everyone just wants fresh bodies and being able to raid consistently. So I got like pretty easy gear because of that. I do think that coins should be in classic. Though now I'm also part of the video where I try to reason with a classic plus statement. Where if they put classic plus, what things would I keep from SOD and what things would I throw away? I think coins would be a keep, because that's something you had in Warthog with Wrath of the Lich King, with like those rune dungeons, where every time you're going to do rune dungeons, you get like some sort of a currency where you can buy the previous raids items, for example, and get like catch up very quickly. I think that's a good system. It also brings you into dungeons that you would maybe never do once you are like T1 or Tier 2, right? Once you are like fully pissed out, what is the reason why you would do those dungeons? Those coins can also turn into currencies or materials, so you could actually like make gear by yourself, or you can sell those materials to the auction house, which again, abundance of materials makes that the price will go lower eventually if there is no demand. So it's a good system. Also, sometimes you have like a few weapons. For example, you can buy a dagger as a rogue, and sometimes it's a bit harder to find a good dagger that is quite slow. Well, you can buy the Barman Shank, which is improved in SOD, and you can raid with it. You can buy a trinket, for example, for ranged, which is Hand of Injustice. Not Hand of Justice, but Hand of Injustice, which is literally the same, but for ranged DPS. You have multiple things that are like going to complement your gear and complement your class. And I found it very cool. So I would keep coin runs into Classic Plus for sure, because it doesn't, like, it's natural progression, right? It doesn't make you not run those dungeons. You will keep on running those dungeons for other pieces or for those coins, because again, it's currency and it's like a daily thing, which something you're still doing in Cataclysm right now, and you did in Wrath of the Lich King. You had a World Tour token run, I don't know how it's called anymore, in Wrath of the Lich King. At that point, that was really cool, because again, you could catch up very quickly with people that wanted to do fast, or you could like get currencies because of that. So I really enjoy coin runs. I think that's the best addition to SOD by a mile. So we have been discussing about coin runs. Now let's discuss about extra difficulties in raids. So some people may not like that, but I actually enjoy the extra difficulties. Mainly because it's also more gear. So for example, in BWL, you have trials. So you have the blue, green, red, and I don't even know anymore which one it was. Yellow, I think. I'm not sure. And those trials, if you are going to beat them, and they have like a debuff, right? So if you're like below 90%, for example, you get a burn. And you need to be you have to get healed above 90% to dispel that burn, pretty much. So once you have completed the raid, so you have beaten Nefarian, you can then um, get extra loot. So you have the loot from the fire, and then you have also those chests. And if you're opening those chests, you will get more loot. So that's actually a good way to bring more loot, not stronger loot. It's not like the loot itself gets better because you have an extra difficulty. So that's a good thing. I think that's something retail has it completely wrong. I think retail should have done less difficulty, like less graduation between the gears. So if you're doing like Mythic Plus or Mythic, not Mythic Plus, but like Mythic rating, you should have more gear, not better gear, right? That's how I see. And I think SOD did really well. So that's something I would also want to see in Classic Plus. And speaking of extra loot, and also like it's also more challenging. I really like that as well, but it's not for everyone. You don't have to play like this, but it's extra gear for the whole guild, or for whole raid. If you have 40 men, it's always better to have 9 extra pieces of loot at the end of the raid because you did those difficulties. So I really enjoy that as well. Um, and what would I say about the tier sets as well? I think it's fantastic that you have multiple tier sets for multiple specs. I think uh, it's no secret that Retribution Paladin is a joke on Classic, and it is what it is. It is just a joke because you don't have anything that can help you. But like for example, the bosses, they don't drop tiers; they drop tokens that you can then give to a vendor in MC, or for example in BWL. You can drop those vendors and you will get then a piece of loot depending on your class and spec, and you can choose which tier set you want. For example, if you're a warrior, you have 2 tier sets. You have a defense tier set, which is a good one for tanking, and you also have a DPS tier set, for example for MC. So you have, after changing stances, your next offensive ability's rage cost is reduced by 10. That's fantastic. For 15 seconds after leaving a stance, you can use abilities requiring the stance as if you were still in that stance. That's also fantastic. You could still do whirlwind if you are going to battle stance for a overpower. I think that's cool. And then for the first 15 seconds after activating the stance, you can gain an additional benefit. For example, 10% increased damage for battle stance or glad stance, berserker stance 10% crit, and defensive stance 10% additional physical damage taken. That's good flavorful things that are tied to stance dancing, and stance dancing has always been something cool about warriors in Classic. And some people may say, oh, it's not cool, I didn't really like that, but it's flavorful and you need to do things to get those benefits. I think that giving more tier sets to classes to be stronger in their own spec. For example, druids have 4 sets, right? They have their healing set, they have the balance druid set, they have the this is like the feral druid DPS set, and then you have the feral tank the feral tank set. So every single spec from druid can actually be competitive because they have gear that is suited for them. You don't have to go off pieces, you don't have to have dungeon pieces for 3 phases because there is no upgrades, because simply there are no items for you that is an upgrade in those raids. No, every single raid you will be able to have pieces that are going to be good for your class. And they also implemented a thing which is a shoulder enchant. I think it's for the next phase, and I haven't seen it yet. But you will be able to take, for example, tier 1 had a great set, and tier 2 has less of a good set because you're a PvPer, and the tier 2 set is really just about threat or something else. But you don't really want that. You want the tier 1 set, but you want the stats from the tier 2 sets, or you want to play with the pieces from tier 2. Well, now what you can do is put a shoulder enchant to get the tier 1 set on the tier 2 set. That's a fantastic thing that you can have, and I wish retail had that as well, because sometimes every season you have a different set, and that set is not really fun to play or use because they changed how it played in season 1, and in season 2 it plays differently, and you are like stuck with a spec that is not enjoyable for the rest of the season until they change it again. So I find it very, very cool how they did manage to loot, and for example, Retribution Paladin being able to actually tank, being able to do actually DPS, and have loot that is coherent is cool. Same for PvP gear. PvP gear matters again, and always matters. And I think they capped it a bit too much from my understanding. But now it's uncapped, obviously. So for me, I don't really see the negatives about it, but I understand why it is negative. But the pieces are like very strong, and they capped it. I understand it, but it's like BDOBL strong, right? For example, the 200x is 80 DPS, pretty much. It's not bad, right? So you have great things. For example, the rank 12 set is actually like very strong stamina wise, not intellect wise. So you would not really bring that into raids. If you want to do raids and you want to do like big parsers or whatever, you don't really want PvP set. You want to go into the raiding set. But if you want a PvP, you want to have max amount of stamina, so you would just take the PvP set, for example. And the good thing is you have multiple sets for multiple classes. So Holy Paladins, you get your set, and Retribution Paladin, you get your set. So that's fantastic. And they don't give a set to tanks because you don't really want to have tanks being unkillable, but tanks can still use those sets and still tank in PvP if they want to. So I really enjoy how they manage that, and I think to level 25, level 50, it's okay. I don't really want to talk about that because that's more of a negative thing. But in the level 60 range, I actually enjoy how they handled items. So one thing to note is that there's also instant wall bosses. So some people may don't like it, so it's also negative, I guess, because it kills the world PvP aspect, the community aspect, the aspect of the world is bigger kind of thing. But the truth is, I just watched world bosses fight or I participated in it, but I never got loot in it. Like I know and don't remember myself getting loot in Azuragos or Lord Kazakh in classic normal. Like I always participated in the PvP events and the fights itself, but I never got any of these items, right? In normal, I never got these items, never. I never seen them either because those are like the bigger guilds in it. And you will say, well, that's exclusive to the guilds. It's cool. It's like a lore, like server lore. It's cool and whatnot. But the truth is, 99% of the player base will never see those world boss items ever. 99. Do you want to have like world bosses just there for the pleasure of your eyes or the immersion of they are world bosses, but we never get to them because it's always like killed on reset directly by a guild? I actually enjoy the world boss instance. I love to do the Prince Tunduran instance. They actually has items. You have like tier one, no, the tier two pieces, even that will drop like a belt, which is cool. You have also some items for other classes that are quite cool as well. For example, like this trinket is cool as hell. You have a pole arm for the feral druids or the hunters. As you may know, druids can have pole arms in SOD. Then you have also a great dagger, for example. That's all things that are quite cool. And you can actually do them because it's instant. And you cannot get grieved, and you cannot have guilds like kill that in the reset that follows. So I actually enjoy it. So for me, it's a bonus, and I would have it in Classic Plus as well. I don't care what people say. I am not an elitist. I want to be able to do world bosses and get loot. I don't want to just do world bosses to be a squire of a certain guild I don't even like join or don't even participate in it. So really, I prefer this over anything. And then you have also those Emerald Drakes, which are going to be also quite fun once next will come out. So I enjoyed. What else? They made some changes to PvP. So some people may don't not like it, but some people may like it. So I'm gonna move that. So pretty much you have PvP events. You have Ashenvale PvP event in level 25. You have STV events since phase 3, if I'm not mistaken. And then you have your Blackrock event, which is since phase 4. So I enjoy the CV, although I'm gonna talk about it once we are there. But I enjoy the idea of like blood tokens and like PvPing alliance or horde, no matter what, just your group and that's it. I enjoy that. I also enjoy how it's like daily, every 3 hours, and it's only 30 minutes. It should be longer. It should be 1 hour. But that aside, you can see it as like a Tolbarad from Cataclysm, or you can see it as a Winter Spring from Wrath of the Lich King. I enjoy that. I think it's okay to have an event where it's PvP and PvP only. Same for Blackrock. You have the Eruption where you don't get any honor, but once you are linking Blackrock Mountain, you get like triple honor for every single elimination, for example. So I also enjoy that, although if you're doing dungeons or you're doing raids or whatever, it's very annoying to get killed while you are on your way. But that's just part of World of Warcraft Classic. I think it's always has been like this, especially on PvP servers. So I enjoy that. Also enjoy again, it's a small thing. I love Chrono Boon being 10 silver and you can buy it in Stormwind. I know it's maybe not popular to say that, but I love to not spend too much money on just keeping my world buffs. I know it's good to like flush out the gold, but realistically, the flushing out of gold happens by having a less availability and no, excuse me, less demand and more availability. So you need more drops, and some people don't want to have more drops or more items on the circuit. So I understand that, but for Classic Plus, I would love to have like a 1 gold Chrono Boon, for example. Why not? Or literally, what you could do again. I understand that wall buffs is an activity to have and so, but you could just maybe enter a raid and you can click um, on an NPC and you can only do it once and you get your wall buffs, for example. And if you die, you don't get it for next reset. For this reset, so you cannot really just click it again and get wall buffs again. I don't know, something like that. And they gave like, for example, wall buff to warriors and whatnot. So it's cool to have. It's nice. It would not be a positive or negative, but it is like a nice to have. One thing I also enjoy on SOD is like every single class is viable or very good, and also every single spec is like very good, like you can clear content and you can be good DPS. You will not be like topping meters because that's the best classes and the best specs. But that's for every single expansion. It's the same. The only laughable thing is Arms War is the only one that suffers from it because they are like the less lesser spec, I would say, for SOD. So it is what it is. Like Arms Warrior is the worst spec in the game, and by a mile, I would say, because they don't have like a lot of ways to regen rage, and their damage is not consistent enough. And they don't have enough melee hits to like again cheat your way in your damage meters. So it is what it is. And you have great catch-ups. So those are my positives for SOD. It has been a long video already, so I will try to pick up the pace. But I really enjoy SOD because of these aspects. What would I keep? I would keep in Classic Plus coin runs. I would keep the extra difficulties. I would keep instance wall bosses. That's for me. It's a given because I never got loot from it in Classic, and I was like someone that was every day online, right? It's not like a issue where I am I'm literally doing nothing on the game and I expect to have loot. That's not the case. It's just the case is you have only one world boss and it's like recent every single time. So I don't enjoy that. PvP gear matters. I'm a PvPer, so I would like to have that as well in Classic Plus. PvP STV event, maybe change it a bit. Like having events in the world is great, so I would like to have that, and having availability to get gear from it is also an option. Extra tier sets, I think that's a given. I already gave that as an idea before SOD. I don't know if I have like a video or whatnot to find and show, but I already said that if you want to have Retribution Paladin to be good, Feral Druid to be good, Balance Druid to be good, you need to have gears tier sets that are mattering to them. And you don't need to have crazy runes, crazy overpowered abilities to make that happen. You just need like a few tuning on the talent trees or on the gear sets to make that happen, by having like a mana reduction. I don't know, something like that. Every spec is somewhat good. I would like to have that in Classic Plus as well. I think you should bring the player and not the class. It always has been like this in my eyes. You should bring the better players and not the better class. It's still like this in Classic though. You still bring classes because of the buffs or whatever, but you want to have like not a 25 warrior raid, right? You want to have a few warriors, a few rogues, a few warlocks, and every single class because of the buffs, but not like you're specifically going to go ham on one class because that's the obvious better class in the game. And I would say good catch ups is a given. Like again, that's the coin runs pretty much. I would have that in Classic Plus as well. Now things that I don't want to have in Classic Plus, those are the negatives, and I don't have many points, but those are like very big points which it can make people leave the game and can make people not stay in the game and just be disgust about the game. So one thing is power skill is too out of hand, and that's the truth. I think backstabbing for 5k is a bit too much. I do that in raids if you have like full wall buffs and whatnot. I think the amount of wall buffs is also too many. I think your class doesn't play at all the same if you have full wall buffs or you have no wall buffs. That should not happen. It should be you have the same class, but it is improved. And now it's like literally, if I have full wall buffs, I play differently. It just is different. I just do way more damage, and it's crazy. I also think like since the power scale is too out of hand, the power scale in PvP is also weird. Like for example, I do 5k backstabs in on Ixia, but for some reason on a shaman I do 500. You're not going to tell me they have like a 90% armor physical damage reduction. That's not possible. They don't have that. They have like 50%. It should be reduced. So that's why it should not be too high in raids and it should be not too low in PvP. And then some classes they have like no scaling issues. For example, shamans they can just like flame shock you for 700 and they can AoE flame shock you for some reason. They have lava bursts, they have like crazy abilities, and that's maybe one of the negatives that like the god class of SOD is shaman, and the issue is with it being shaman is that it is horde only, so alliance gets like really just wrecked. That is just the reality. um, and I could be talking about anything else, like really it just is that you give too many abilities too much power. I think Deadly Brew is a fun thing, but it should maybe be a talent on the assassination tree. I think that's something that is viable and good, and I would wish that in every single spec. But if I'm playing backstab, I need slaughter from the shadows. But you see, it has literally written to non-player control targets. So if, for example, my damage is literally not the same versus a PvP player or then in a raid. So some things are just not really well placed, and I think Rogue is one of the okay classes in SOD where I think if you import it from SOD to Classic Plus, it would be okay. Just is that I think it shouldn't be, not be revolved around backstabbing every single global and literally saying no to eviscerate. I think that's kind of dumb. I think abilities like eviscerate should have a spot in your rotation, and currently it is not. I think also the HP pools are crazy in PvP, and I would say also in PvE. I like again bear tanks. If you have seen one competent at it, they have like Wrath of the Lich King HP pools pretty much. So it's definitely crazy. I think also just in general, I would never do a Classic Plus again with phases below 60. It should be just level to 60, and then you have your content. I think they enjoyed the fact that at level 25 you have low power scale. It's like the level 30 beta that we had in Classic 2019. It is like low scale, big world kind of stuff, which is fine. But the issue is, even if it's fun, it's only fun for that phase. But for the newcomers, they really missed out on things. For example, I'm level 60. No way I'm going to do phase 1 things. But the strength about Classic is that you still do phase 1 things. For example, if you are in NAX, you still want to go into MC and bid UBOL because you want to have specific pieces from those raids. But if you're level 60 right now, you're never going to go back into Glommerground. You're never going to go back to BFD. You're never going to go back in ST except for like toys. And that's the only thing you would like to want, toys. And not everyone wants to do that. No, not everyone wants to do a raid that is pass your time just for toys. So I would prefer it to be a level 1 to 60 phase, literally just that. And at level 60 you get new content. So you get new MC, BWL, Nax. I think also for Classic Plus, maybe don't repeat your content. I know it's tough because it's still classic, but I think if you're putting MC, BWL, AQ, Nax out, you're going to lose a lot of people just by phase 6, and then you have new content. I think the new content should be direct. I think SM rate maybe should be before MC. I think that makes sense as well because it's low power scale. You're fighting humans, you're fighting priests, paladins, so and then you're fighting a colossus like Ragnaros, right? Like Rag. So I think the power skill is a bit different. Like I think the raids should be rearranged. I think MC should be a side raid. So you have two raids maybe for the first phase. It maybe is overkill, but I think people would not like to want to reiterate all the phases to get the new stuff, right? I think it's cool to have new dungeons, like for example DFC. It's a really cool dungeon, which is Demon Fall Canyon. It's a cool dungeon with cool loot. For example, this loot is really insane. But I think they should like still keep on doing new dungeons. I think every single phase you should be having new dungeons with new loot, not crazy loot. I also want the power scale to be not out of hands. So in Classic Plus, it should not be that every single phase you're going to get like 2k HP more. Like I think it's too ridiculous. Just have some verticality, but not that high. It should be like this instead of like this, right? No runes. Classic Plus, if you want to have new stuff, change the talent trees a bit. Maybe TBC talent trees, I don't know. Tier sets, that's okay. If you want to have new abilities, be learned on a trainer, or like a choice node, like a something. I don't know. Like you could have a lot of stuff, but I think runes is first of all really a hassle to pick up. So what I like about Phase 6 is you can buy every single rune. So you don't need to do the quests or like searching on Warhead or whatever. You don't need to do that. So that's made it very fun, but it made leveling very OP. I would never like do no new abilities from level 1. It should be gained throughout your leveling experience. So for example, throughout my leveling experience at level 30 I will get Deadly Brew, for example. At level 40 I get Honor Among Thieves. Shadow Step at level 60, for example. I don't know, like other abilities. Blade Dance, if you still want to have rogue tanking, Blade Dance at level 14. I would say also, for example, this one, like the Just a Flesh Wound, which is the tanking thing, maybe at level 14 as well, so you could tank the Dead Mines or Waiting Caverns or whatever. Like those things are like cool to have, and you should like have Mutilate on the Assassination tree, for example. Saber Slash maybe on the combat tree. Cutthroat, I would not have that anymore. Just put Shadow Dance, for example. Why not? Then you have a CD. Mangosh is quite fun for tanking. You could have that as well in combat. Shadow Strike is useless, just remove it. And for example, those things is cool if you just make ratios not matter. Now these really just like negates humans, for example. Yeah, you like it doesn't matter if you're playing swords or not because you have this. So or it doesn't matter if you have the racial because you have this. It's good to balance it out, but it's annoying because you don't really have any replacement on the racial things, right? And then you have like AoE, so the AoE whenever you want to have it, put it in the game, a new talent or a new ability that you gain throughout leveling. You have many ideas and many things that you can go for. So this is like kind of my suggestions, but I would say the one thing I really like want to stress out: PvP unbalanced state is not fun. I think it would be better if it was close to raids, but not like it should be closer to raid, but raid should also be closer to the PvP scaling. So it should be lower. Like the raid output, you should not be able to do 4k DPS, right? In classic, it shouldn't be possible. You should be at like between 1000 2000 depending if in what phase you are. If you're like top damage, right, 1000 or 2000 top DPS with the best gear possible. And PvP wise it should be reduced, obviously, but maybe with resilience or whatever. But it should be that you're not going to get one shot because a shaman looked at you, for example. So those are things I would like change. I think it's okay. Maybe arenas, why not? But I think the game is not suited for that. I don't know. But in Classic Plus, I think you could learn a lot of the things of SOD and put it in Classic Plus as well. I don't think it's like everything needs to be thrown away. I think it's quite fun to have all these things in the game, and I think it's quite fun to have every spec being valuable. So you don't say Retribution Paladin, we don't need because you're like just one leecher, for example. So that's cool to have. I think SOD was very fun. I'm still playing SOD, by the way. I'm kind of raid logging though. I could do PvP, but like even then, I'm like trying to rank. Why not? It's quite fast to rank on SOD. But the truth is, Rogue is fun, but you don't one shot anything compared to a Shaman, or sometimes a Mage does deep freeze Icelands and you're dead, for example. So I don't know. I think they have still things to change in Classic Plus, but I like how they have it, and I would like to have SOD being the building block, the like the line in the sand to know if it's going to be Classic Plus or not. I think a few things can be kept, for example, coin runs, which should be 100% given in Classic Plus, and some things should be gone, like for example runes, which I never really liked. So again, thank you for watching the video. Really appreciate you. It has been a long video, but hopefully you did learn something from me in SOD. Like again, I'm like literally a fresh player on SOD. Like I played only 1 or 2 phase max, and then at phase 6 I decided to play again, level up, do raids, do PvP, do dungeons, coin runs, and I actually enjoy really a lot of SOD. I just think that it is a shame that you don't really know what is in the future, but I think Classic Plus 2026 will be a reality. So just 1 year, and you will get the best version of Classic possible. But for now, we are going to play Fresh. We're going to play Cataclysm. We're going to play SOD. I would say Fresh is still my main game, obviously. I think it's more fun with more people. But I would say rating wise, I had a lot of fun doing it in SOD. Like SOD rating is on another level. I think also it's also a heaven for people that do love raiding, because you have like literally every day something to do. So that's quite cool as well. But you also get it in Fresh once you have like Next out, everything is out. You are going to be able to raid every single day as well. But I think yeah, SOD is a good surprise. I was not going to be staying, but now I am actually staying and doing some raids, and I have found a guild that is ready to play with me and with my friends. Yeah, I look forward for that. Again, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.